What's the biggest difference between a traditional real estate investment deal and a non-traditional real estate investment deal? Well, I think the biggest difference between the two is how these things right here are needed and how they are used to actually get the deal done. Like, let me give you an example. In a traditional or non-traditional deal, let's say you find a property. It's worth, we're talking about maybe a residential home. It's worth $300,000, okay? Well, in a traditional scenario, you got to go to your lender, get pre-approved. You have a $300,000 home that you want to purchase, right? Okay. They may say, well, in order for you as an investor to get pre-approved for this property, you have to put down maybe 20 to 25% of the purchase price. So let's say if it's 300,000, 20% is what? 60,000. 25% is 75. So anywhere from 60K to 70K, you would have to put down. In a non-traditional property, it could be a $300,000 home, depending on how you are acquiring or how you generated the lead. It could have been a pre-foreclosure. It could be someone who's in a distressed situation. It might not be a pre-foreclosure. They just have to relocate and move. They're leaving the country, or it's a home that a family member had and it's empty now. It could be so many scenarios, right, that create the opportunity for this non-traditional deal. But most likely, if it's non-traditional, it's probably not going to be 60 or 70,000 unless it's a pre-foreclosure. They behind 5 years in their mortgage or something like that. You might have to work some nuances out. But my point is, just with the money aspect of this type of scenario, a non-traditional deal is probably not going to be 20 to 25%. Most of the typical non-traditional creative real estate deals with properties that are around maybe 300,000, it might not even take you 10 to 15%, maybe 10 to 15%, if that, to get into the deal. So it might take 30 grand. You know, if it's a pre-foreclosure, I've seen the averages. I know for me, the averages are probably, I like to say, I'll just say 50 average. If you think about arrears, if you think about the cost of acquisition, assignment fees, if you think about, you know, little repairs that need to be done, you could definitely get into a property. You know, it might be 40, but I like to say 50 just to give yourself some cushion. But still, you're under the traditional way. Let's think about credit. Well, with credit, you can get in as an investor with maybe a 640, 620, 640. Most of the times they're going to want to see maybe a 660 or 680. We're talking about for investors. Now, if you are a homestead buyer and you're just looking to buy a personal residence, they might have programs out there at 580, high interest rates, 620s, 640s. But as an investor, it may be 660, 680. Now, we have a lender that work on our team. My wife, who's a real estate agent, she works with our lender way more than I do. So I could be talking out the side of my head because I'm not always up to par on the nuances of the rates and all that. But I would just assume, based on my limited knowledge of communicating with my wife and our lender, that you might be around 660, 680. So let's just say 640 to 680 for an investor, all right? Well, guess what? With a non-traditional deal, let's say in this same scenario that we gave here, who cares? Ain't nobody looking at your credit anyway. So you see how these differentiators make a big deal in you being able to do it. Oh, and we didn't even mention, if you're dealing with a lender right here as an investor, you might have a limitation on how many properties you can buy because of your debt to income ratio, because of whatever caps that they have on their lending requirements. It's so many roadblocks and limitations. Have none of that over here. Well, let's think about credentials. Well, you need 2 years of financials. If it's a business, you still might need to show some income statements or bank accounts or whatever the lender is requiring. So there is paperwork involved here. No matter what, you still got to submit something. They want to see something. They ain't just taking whatever you saying. It's not like how it used to be like 15, 20 years ago when my wife and I were just getting started as a two-person team. They had these stated loans, just stated. You could just state. And I think there are some kind of creative opportunities that are available. I know we have the DSCR loans, but again, I'm not a lender. I'm not even an agent. My wife is an agent. We work with a lender we have on our team that works with a lot of our clients who need to get themselves in a position, but I don't know that stuff. I'm a creative real estate investor, so I'm always biased to this side. But I do know there's some type of paperwork. Over here, the only paperwork in terms of credentials to qualify and verify what you do is just you being able to have the money and being able to wire it to the attorney. But none of this is anything that's like a big deal, especially like it is over here. Now I put other because with some traditional lenders, like even hard money lenders, you might not be able to bring in private money lenders on certain deals. Like I know some hard money lenders who say, hey, we don't want anyone to have a second position on ours. So you got to be mindful of that. But when you are doing non-traditional loans, you can use other people's money. You could bring private money lenders in here, which in most cases, when you have a private money lender on a deal, even with the amount of money that it takes to put down in order to get the deal, guess what? It doesn't even have to be your money because it's the private money lenders. So it could be their retirement accounts. It could be self-directed IRAs. So I'm just showing you the difference between the traditional and non-traditional. And I'm not saying you don't need to at least put yourself in a position to use the traditional lending procedures and traditional strategies when necessary, especially when you're doing creative deals, because you might have to do some cash out refis, or there are just some things that you might involve other people on the disposition side. Like when you purchase a property creatively or non-traditionally, you may want to do lease purchases. You may want to set them up with a lender so that they can be pre-qualified to vet them. If you're doing other types of creative deals, you want to make sure that they've been vetted through this process. So there may be a need for this, but it's not as important as this over here. So you just have to choose what side of the scenario you want to be on. Again, I'm biased to this because when I first got started in my real estate investing journey, I didn't have any of this. I didn't have money. I didn't have credit. I didn't have any credentials. I didn't even have other people who would even loan me money. But I had the willingness to learn and to get new information. And once I started understanding this side, I still waited a while because I was working with investors who were doing the real business, and I still didn't have the courage to step in. But once I got the courage, it just so happened I had enough business going on in a real active business that I had a little money that I could have that extra confidence and courage to step into it. But again, it doesn't mean you have to have it. It just means that it may be necessary depending on the type of non-traditional deal that you're doing. But nevertheless, if you just look at this raggedy diagram or the visual that I put together, it's not the best looking, but it just goes to show that, wow, I can actually get into real estate investing even if it's not my own money. I can use a private money lender. I don't need credit. I don't need credentials. I don't need none of the stuff that the traditional real estate investment deals require and demand in order for you to do the deal. And there are a lot of people who are leaning over here, but again, you need to have the information, which, by the way, I want you to click the link in the description, or you could go to RamonPreston.com/event, RamonPreston.com/event. Within the next 2 weeks, I'm going to be hosting a deep dive, a workshop on creative real estate investing. I'm going to be talking about a lot of the ins and outs that you need to know in order to be successful and effective in this area. And you don't have to know everything. You need to know enough to feel comfortable to start moving forward in it. And you need to have a community of people who can support you and reinforce what you're doing. Because a lot of the things that I'm sharing with you right now, not just with the information, but even with the community and support, I didn't have when I first started leaning into real estate investing. And I know today it plays a very important role in the lives of the students and the mentees that I work with, and it definitely would play a very important role with you. But nevertheless, I would love for you to join me for my upcoming workshop. Click the link in the description or go to ramonpreston.com/event. You can RSVP today. We're going to have a virtual setup, and we're going to have in person. So you can join me here at my headquarters, or you can join me virtually. It's actually going to be on Saturday, March the 23rd from 12 p.m. to 4. So it's a 4-hour deep dive. I'm not going an entire day because we ain't taking all these breaks and lunches and all that. We're deep diving. And then I want to have time after the workshop to maybe work with some of the people who are here with us to make some calls and to actually get some deals done. That's what I want to do. I want to get deals done. So I look forward to seeing you. Leave a comment and hit the like button, hit the share button. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube page. Peace.